Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're starting something a little heavier than our usual parade of medieval inbred potatoes, but don't worry, we're keeping things soft, slow, and extremely undramatic. So, go ahead and dim the lights. Fluff the pillow, pretend your anxiety isn't drafting you into the war, because tonight, we're drifting gently into the early days of World War II and exploring the most famous battles, not with explosions or heroism or anything alarming, but with the calming energy of someone describing a mildly disappointing museum tour. Just a soft glide through history's worst decisions, strange commanders, and the kind of political overconfidence that really should have come with a sleep warning label. So, let's sink slowly into 1939, a year when Europe looked at every single red flag and shrugged. Because of course they did. The calm before the terrible storm. Before the battles start, the entire continent is basically standing around like, surely Hitler won't be a problem, right? Right? Spoiler, he was absolutely a problem. But that's okay. We're not here to feel tension. We're here to stroll, lazily, through historical chaos at a comfortable reading pace. Germany has spent the 1930s preparing itself like a kid who definitely did not do the homework but somehow insists he's ready for the exam. Meanwhile, Britain and France are sitting in the back row pretending the exam won't happen at all. Which leads us, gently, calmly, to the first famous battle that wasn't really a battle, but more of an extremely awkward breakup. The invasion of Poland, September 1939, aka when everyone realized Hitler actually meant it. Let's float into Poland. It's early September, the weather is still warm, the leaves are doing their seasonal thing, and Germany decides, why not roll 1.5 million soldiers across the border? Just
set the tone. Poland, bless them, was brave, but they were also caught between Germany's brand new hyper-organized war machine and the Soviet Union on the other side, waiting like a neighbor, deciding the exact moment to steal your lawnmower. Now, people always joke about the Polish cavalry charging tanks, and no, that didn't happen the way the memes suggest. But Poland was outmatched, out-mechanized, and basically abandoned by the countries that had promised to help. Britain and France did declare war on Germany, and then immediately sat down, made tea, and waited for someone else to start fighting. This peaceful inactivity is known soothingly as the phony war. And honestly, it's the most bedtime energy phase of World War II. Picture entire armies just vibing, watching clouds, holding rifles like they're props, no urgency whatsoever. But Poland didn't get a chill version. They got blitzkrieged, quickly, efficiently, very unrelaxingly. Still, we're narrating this like a lullaby, so imagine it happening at the speed of a slow documentary reenactment. Lots of sepia. Within weeks, Germany takes Warsaw, and Poland is carved up between two dictatorships like a very tragic charcuterie board. Not the most uplifting start, but hey, history rarely is. Let's drift onward, floating softly into 1940, the fall of France, where Europe learns the meaning of too little, too late. Spring 1940. Flowers are blooming, birds are chirping, and Germany is quietly preparing the single most successful surprise we're going around your defenses moment of the century. France believed deeply in forts, specifically the Maginot Line, a massive defense wall that was basically the medieval castle of the industrial age. They poured money, concrete, and national confidence into it. Problem, it didn't extend through the Ardennes forest because generals insisted it was impassable. Germany looked at that forest and said,
Okay, but what if we pass through it anyway? And they did, smoothly, calmly, like someone slipping into a movie theater after the lights go down. France and Britain, who had spent the winter politely waiting for something to happen, suddenly realized something had happened, and it wasn't good. German tanks rolled through Belgium, then the Ardennes, then deep into France with the kind of quiet efficiency that makes you wonder if anyone had tried turning the Allies off and on again. Within weeks, France was collapsing. Paris fell in June, the French government evacuated, and Britain suddenly found itself standing alone like the last guy at the karaoke bar who didn't realize everyone else had gone home. The speed of France's defeat shocked the world, but tonight we'll imagine it all happening in slow motion, like a very long, very gentle domino effect. France surrenders. Germany occupies. Northern Europe is now basically one large, uncomfortable open office space under Hitler's management. Let's float across the Channel. The Battle of Britain, 1940. The only time being an island was a personality trait. Britain is now alone. They know it. Germany knows it. Everyone knows it. Hitler decides he needs to soften Britain up before any invasion attempt. So he sends the Luftwaffe, his air force, to bomb military targets, factories, cities, anything that could pressure the British to say, "All right, fine, we give up, you can have the island." The British, being British, respond with, "No, thank you. We're very busy not surrendering." Thus begins the Battle of Britain, the first major military campaign fought entirely in the air. Now, air battles sound dramatic, but let's keep them very soothing. Imagine the planes moving slowly across the sky, like slightly aggressive clouds. Radars humming softly, pilots sipping metaphorical tea. Britain's Royal Air Force, or RAF, is outnumbered, but radar technology, home field advantage, and a frankly impressive level of stubbornness keep them afloat. German planes get shot down. British cities are bombed. Hitler changes tactics, then changes them again, because committing to a plan is hard. Eventually, the Germans give up, deciding Britain is just not worth the effort. The invasion is cancelled. The island stays unconquered. And Winston Churchill delivers speeches that sound bold, but, if whispered, are actually great for sleep. The Battle of Britain ends as one of the first major Axis failures, and the Allies finally feel a spark of hope, a very tiny spark, like an LED nightlight. Let's drift across the sea. North Africa, the Desert War, where everyone is sunburned, thirsty, and annoyed. If Europe was cold, political, and depressing, North Africa was the opposite: dry, bright, sandy, and still depressing. Italy decides to invade Egypt in 1940, because of course Mussolini wanted to play empire, even though his military was about as prepared as a toddler with a plastic sword. The British push them back. Germany sighs deeply, puts on its metaphorical sandals, and sends in General Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, to help. Rommel is clever, fast-moving, and honestly a little too enthusiastic about driving tanks across giant dunes. The British struggle. Supplies run low. Everyone keeps getting lost because, shockingly, desert landscapes all look the same. The battles move back and forth like a very sandy ping-pong match. Operation Compass, the Siege of Tobruk, the First Battle of Al Alamein. Names that sound dramatic, but tonight we're whispering them like ASMR trivia. Finally, in late 1942, the Allies regroup under General Bernard Montgomery, He brings organization, planning, and possibly the most rigid personal schedule of any WW2 commander. The second battle,
El Alamein, becomes a turning point. Britain pushes Rommel back. The Axis forces lose ground, and everyone involved gets to stop being covered in sand for 5 minutes. Let's drift again, far, far to the east. Operation Barbarossa, 1941. The "what if we invaded Russia in winter" attempt nobody should have tried. Germany deciding to invade the Soviet Union was a choice. A loud, dramatic choice. But for tonight, we'll treat it like someone casually opening a door they really shouldn't. Summer 1941. Germany launches Operation Barbarossa, the largest land invasion in human history. Millions of troops, thousands of tanks, an entire continent holding its breath. The Soviets are caught off guard. Stalin refuses to believe the invasion is real until the evidence is basically knocking on his office door. German forces push deep into Soviet territory fast. Cities fall, prisoners are taken, and Hitler thinks everything is going great. But the Soviet Union is huge, like you should have packed a second lunchbox huge. And Russian winter is approaching like the world's coldest slap. By October, the German advance slows, supply lines stretch, tanks freeze, soldiers freeze. Morale freezes harder than both. The Germans reach the outskirts of Moscow and then stop. The Soviet counterattack pushes them back, snow falls, everyone regrets everything. This isn't the most famous battle yet, that comes soon, but Barbarossa sets the stage, and we're floating gently toward the moment when the Eastern Front becomes the worst place imaginable. The Siege of Leningrad, 1941-1944, the longest, coldest, most miserable slow-motion tragedy of World War II. If you ever want to imagine a battle that lasted so long it feels like a slow, endless winter night, Leningrad is the one. For almost 900 days, the city is surrounded, cut off, bombarded, starving. But Soviet civilians refuse to surrender. Factories keep churning out whatever they can. Bread is made from sawdust and glue. People risk shelling to draw water from the Neva. But the fight only ever feels like it's just going to last forever. Operating. Orchestras play music. People survive through sheer stubbornness and whatever tiny bits of food they can find. It's dark, slow, and horrific. But tonight, we glide over it gently, acknowledging the endurance without the horror. The siege becomes one of the defining battles of the war, not for explosions, but for the quiet, brutal endurance of a city that simply refused to die. And as winter deepens, we drift toward Stalingrad, the most famous battle of the entire war. But that is where we will pick up next time.